Gaudeamus omnes in Domino, Diem festum celebrantes, sub honore Agate Martis, de cuius passione gaudet angeli, et collaudat filium Dei. Eruptavit corneum verbum bonum, dico ego opera mea Regi. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sic ut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Gaudeamus omnes in Domino, Diem festum celebrantes, sub honore Agate Martis, de cuius passione gaudet angeli, et collaudat filium Dei. The woman in the Gospel of today comes up in fear and trembling and admits that she has been the one to have touched, knowing that this touch was rendering the Lord, as it were, impure, for a woman under the law who had a hemorrhage, a flow of blood, was impure, and therefore coming into contact with her by touch would have rendered that person who touched her part of that contagion. The Lord, in bringing out this miracle, making it known, wanted that this should precisely return to its author in thanksgiving and praise, a message for us. Some years ago, when celebrating on Sunday in the Abbey in Italy, one of the young men who was serving at the high altar was a young African of about 19. And as it happens, he had been talking to me shortly before about something that had happened in his village or his area down in Africa. It was a priest who was still in the ministry, but was obviously up to something which was not pleasing to the Lord. And as he was celebrating the sacred mysteries for the parish one day, this had happened not long before I saw my friend, as he came to the doxology, the elevation of the host and the chalice together at the end of the Eucharistic prayer, singing in French, "Parlez avec lui, à toi." He had to stop, for in his hands the miracle of complete transformation into visible flesh and blood of these sacred species consecrated in his hands was visible unto all. It had taken place, and he could not continue the celebration. Now, this young man, because he was next to me as we were celebrating in front of a church full of people, for it was summer, people of many nations and cultures, and because this gospel was precisely on the theme of making known the hidden things of the Lord and rendering unto God what is his due in praise and honour and worship and thanksgiving for what he does quietly. So I thought perhaps this would be the moment to bring him too to the microphone, and with his permission, on condition that I did everything, he came, and because it was in Italy and he spoke French, we had to do it in 2 languages at once. But it was just a question of asking a few questions and translating his answers before the microphone, and all he did was say in response what he had seen. And one of the questions I posed was, into what kind of flesh and blood did this transform itself? And immediately he said quite simply, en chair noire, into black flesh. That of course was normal for him and for his culture, for the Lord was theirs. The Lord was one of his people. They were his, and he loved them in their blackness, and he took that blackness on himself in this miracle, inculturating himself big time, as we would say. Interesting. Yes, the Lord loves the people in their culture and in their unicity, their uniqueness. Every culture is taken on by him in all its glory, and true missionary work sanctifies and honours that culture without destroying it. As it happens, just these very days I'm involved in a similar debate much closer to home, for we in Wales are a little concerned that we only have now English bishops and therefore no contact with culture at ground level. So this is obviously a problem which will have to be discussed even on the highest level. But to get back to this question of giving glory unto God and using what is there, we can do it. We can do it even on a daily basis when we just bow our heads and give thanks for those blessings that keep us alive, food and drink, for it is always his providence and a sign that he loves us enough one more day to keep us alive. We forget to give thanks, do we not? But one last thing. Why should the Lord have performed such a great miracle? Indeed, it has happened again recently, just the other day actually, here, not here in the south, but in the north. A person from the north came here and told me about it. Must have been somewhere in the Belfast area, where a host had fallen to the ground, and it was put in the tabernacle, but in water. And when the priest came to open the tabernacle, he found that it was bleeding. These Eucharistic miracles are actually more numerous than one thinks, but each happens in a special context and situation. One asks whether perhaps this last one here in Ireland was precisely a reminder that the Lord is not too happy about the way he is being treated. These people who glibly pick up, put away, dissolve, and so on, the body of the Lord, without, of course, consecrated hands, it's all a messy business when compared with what the saints knew and practiced. They had a great love and reverence for the sacred species, and the Lord wants also that he be consecrated by hands who are belonging to an entire person, that that person belongs in his entirety to his will, and therefore we do not come to the altar in mortal sin. As priests, we must be sure that we are celebrating in a state of grace. Not that the Lord would normally step in to show anyone the contrary, but it does happen. And these little signs, or not small signs, remind us what we are at right now at the altar. If I am a king, says the Lord, where is my honour? Where is my honour? Let us then approach the Lord knowing that we do not see. However, he does occasionally just lift a small part of the veil and drop a hint. What you cannot see, nevertheless, is, for I am.